Hello, everyone, and welcome to the community call. Today's topic we're going to talk about is beacons, and my name is Rachel. I'm here once again to be your moderator for the call, and here with me is Dave to talk about beacons. So go ahead and introduce yourself a little bit.
Thanks, Rachel. Hi, everyone. I'm Dave. I lead the blockchain-focused business development at API3. What I'd like to discuss in today's call is the product that we currently have live on testnet, and we're planning on launching in Q2, which is Beacons. Beacons is a very lightweight, very transparent data feed protocol that's easily generalizable and scalable across lots of blockchains and lots of asset types. So I do have a presentation about Beacons as well.
Right.
I need to ask you to put that up.
Yeah, here we go. Go ahead.
Okay, so like I was saying, beacons are data feeds that are able to provide live updated data points to a lot of different blockchains. In theory, it can support any EVM compatible blockchain currently. And it provides them directly and transparently from the data source without needing a layer of third-party oracles in the middle. So that way you have a feed that's very Sybil resistant, but also you can tell exactly where the data is coming from when you use it. And this is how the feed's set up. You have the data provider running AirNode. AirNode allows the data provider to put data directly on chain without needing a third-party provider. So these are first-party data feeds. Smart contracts can use a value that's kept updated on chain. The Beacon server changes or triggers an update when the API's value differs by more than a certain parameter from the value that's on chain. So, for instance, you could have a data feed that's updated when the API differs by more than 0.25% or 0.1%, and that's adjustable and that can be customizable per asset and used to achieve kind of an optimal blend of accuracy and pricing. The transparent first-party design allows developers to know exactly what the reputation behind the data source is when they use it, and it allows people using dApps to assess that as well when they're looking at the kind of risk of data provider exploits and risk of Oracle attacks as well. And by combining the API and the Oracle, Beacons reduce the cost to operate these data feeds because the third-party oracles that other Oracle providers use need to be paid for what they're doing. So if you take out the third-party Oracle layer, you remove this layer that has to be compensated for pushing data on chain. So you can provide something that's more secure and cheaper, and everything's completely transparent as well. The traditional third-party data feeds that are in use today on Web3 have a couple of trade-offs. So some of them have the aggregation take place on the blockchain with the oracles calling a number of different APIs. You can't always tell exactly how many APIs they're calling or what APIs are using. So it's very opaque at the data source. It's expensive because you have to aggregate on chain, and you're also paying the nodes themselves to fetch the data for you. So the other downside here is that the aggregation contract normally is centrally controlled. So you have a project that decides which APIs are used and which nodes are used. And that is a source of centralization that's not often discussed and is glossed over. So the other architecture that we see is where you have off-chain aggregation. So this is cheaper because the aggregation doesn't take place on-chain, but you end up with the aggregation level itself being pretty opaque, as well as the data sources and as well as the oracles. It's still centralized, but it's centralized at the oracle that posts the result on-chain, and you still have the same issue where you're paying the oracles to put the data on-chain. There are reduced gas fees because the aggregation takes place off-chain, but you still have the oracle, the middleman tax, you like to call it. So for data providers from the other side of this, Beacons provides a way to monetize your data directly on-chain. We have a model that allows them to get revenue with the on-chain users of the data rather than the number of third-party oracles that are reselling it. So for instance, if you're a very successful API provider and you have lots of subscriptions from third-party oracles, they could be supplying dApps that have billions and billions of dollars TVL, and you're still just getting your subscription fee from that. And that's if they're subscribing with the right fee at all. So with this, data providers know who's using the data, and they have a way of getting revenue that scales proportionately to that. It's all powered by AirNode, which is turnkey set and forget solution. So data providers can also run this very easily without needing to be incredibly Web3 savvy. And the beacon that we're launching first of all is the Ambidata Beacon. So Ambidata are a very top tier crypto price provider. We're launching Q2 on Ethereum, Polygon, BNB chain, which is Binance Smart Chain, and Arbitrum. It's already available on Ropsten, Rinkeby, Go Early, and Mumbai. So you can actually go, and if you go to monitor.api3.org, you can check out the live monitoring of those as well, so that you can see exactly how the feeds are working. It shows the deviation, and it shows when the deviation thresholds are hit, it will show an update as well. And it shows the API price for comparison. So it's just a nice way of seeing how well they track. And the market conditions at the moment are very good for seeing how it copes during extreme market movements. The other interesting point about beacons, I mentioned scalability. It's something that a lot of people haven't necessarily considered. It's like, how easy is it to deploy a new data feed? So a lot of assets currently aren't supported, and a lot of new chains currently find it difficult to get support for price data or for any kind of data on the blockchain. With Airnode, it's been designed to scale easily across different chains, and Beacons scales with it as well. And we actually, so just an example for how easy this was to do, we deployed for the hackathon at ETHDenver 80 different price feeds in one call with Ambidata. So, and that's across 4 different testnets as well, which basically means that it should be something that enables us to support all manner of assets across all manner of chains eventually. And the last thing is, if you think you would like to talk more about beacons, then reach out, probably either in our Telegram, our Discord, or you can reach out and contact@api3.org, and somebody will be able to talk you through and give you more details, including pricing. We are aiming to make the pricing pretty transparent as well in the future, so projects looking to use this won't have to go through layer upon layer of conversations to discuss it. Everything should be accessible and upfront, which kind of fits with the ethos that we have. We're already working with it's actually over 180 different API providers, and we're happy to discuss that data as well. We had our first production use case for a request response protocol go live on Avalanche C Chain a couple of weeks ago as well. So yeah, if any of that interests you, then reach out. The other thing to mention is that we're currently taking part in the ETHDenver virtual hackathon. It's going on for 3 more weeks, and we have a number of bounties up for people who develop projects using beacons. The testnet beacon access that I mentioned is available for the duration of the hackathon. And I think the best way to get access to those is if you go to our docs page, which is docs.api3.org. There's a separate section for beacons. That gives you all the information you'd need to know about how to call them, how to use them, and different beacon addresses on different chains. And that's it.
Right. And like you said, anybody that's watching that's interested, contact us on either our Telegram or our Discord, or send us an email. And the team's pretty responsive. So if you are interested in either participating in the hackathon that we've been talking about, or getting beacons set up or anything like that, or using beacons for your project, the team is very responsive, so just send them a message. But yeah, can you tell us a little bit more about the ETHDenver hackathon, kind of what happened in the in-person event and the digital event that's still ongoing?
So we're still looking at submissions for the digital event, but it hasn't finished yet, obviously. We're keen to promote the fact that we have bounties available for developers looking to use it, and also our documentation is very developer focused. So we've done a lot of this documentation specifically for the hackathon to make it easy for people to integrate beacons in their projects. It was really good at ETHDenver to get out and speak to people about it. I think beacons as a whole seems well received. A lot of projects out there are struggling to have access to data, and a lot of blockchains there are pretty underserved by the current data feed availability. So beacons will help to address that and also solve the problem of having these kind of opaque networks and nodes serving data of unknown provenance in a way that brings everything as transparently to the fore as possible.
Right, and like you said, a lot of this is a lot more easy to access for both developers and for people who want to get they are API providers and they want to get their data on chain. It seems like this is a really easy solution to implement to kind of make the barrier to entry for these kind of things a lot lower. So
yeah, so I think this is more for the existing kind of DeFi use cases that are used to already having a value on chain to call. So this is because we're keeping a number up to date on the chain as a protocol, this does need gas to maintain that. it needs less gas than other designs that use third-party oracles, but it still needs gas to maintain it. So for the average API provider, it's something that they might not want to deploy first, but the request response protocol is much more generalizable. And that's the one that we have the majority of our APIs deployed to. Request response is much more analogous to a traditional Web2 API call, where you request data from the API and the API then responds to that data. So that kind of data use case, and that's what the majority of our APIs are on currently, is suited for, well, it's used for price data as well, but it's suited for all kinds of data. So for instance, the project that I mentioned on Avalanche is using it to give crypto sentiment scoring. The project's called Cassandra, so they use an API called Heimdall, and it gives them information about the social metrics of different crypto projects on Avalanche, and that's used to rebalance token baskets, I think, by their project. So you have that kind of info, you can have weather information, you can have shipping information, flight information, you might want sports data information for a prediction market. It's all there and it's all available. Beacons is just another way of serving data that's much more tailored to DeFi and tailored to the specific needs of the kind of existing and developing crop of DeFi projects out there.
So it's really like kind of DeFi focused. So if you're like a developer out there right now that wants to do DeFi stuff, or you have DeFi data, then this is probably idealized like for you, essentially.
Yeah, it's been custom made for that effectively. Long term with beacons, we can construct DAPIs, which is the kind of the white paper ideal of having multiple decentralized data feeds. And these beacons will be the building blocks of the DAPIs as well. So then you can see everything from source to aggregation to how it's used. But in the meantime, beacons actually provides a very useful way of telling exactly who's giving you the data and providing this like completely transparent, easily scalable data feed protocol.
Because like you said, it's just one particular thing that you're asking for, like the price point of a specific asset or coin or whatever, and then just one provider as well, right? Just one-to-one.
The provider can provide any one of their endpoints and any one piece of information from that endpoint. So like BTC USD, ETH USD are all provided as separate data feeds, even though they're by the same provider. But you could have, in theory, lots of other providers releasing beacons and then aggregation on chain by the DAO as well, so that everything's scalable and you can see exactly the logic behind every step. We think it's important as well to give people the choice of having this kind of transparency and quality, where you have a known data provider with a good reputation. Developers want to be able to access that and know that they're using high quality data in the products they're creating on chain as well.
Yeah, that sounds really good. It kind of plays with everything that API 3 has been doing so far, but kind of provides a more like building block sort of service than what we were doing previously, essentially.
Yeah, it's in addition to what we were doing previously. So the request response stuff is still there, it's still being updated, it's still being used. Beacons now is an extra functionality. And like I say, for the hackathon at ETHDenver, we're very heavily focused on beacons. We're not providing any of the other APIs for it, because we do want to see it get some usage, get developers interested, and get them building on it. We're also looking through the hackathon if there are successful projects using it. Obviously, the DAO's looking to give the ability, or the DAO's looking to be able to give grants to those to help get them to production, because we think getting early users is very important. And obviously, we're happy to help support their development too.
Right. So what was some of the kind of like categories that people were using beacons on, or some of the bounties and stuff like that are still available in this digital hackathon? You said it's still going on, I think, for the next 3 weeks?
Yeah, let me get the bounties up, actually.
Sure. So there's plenty of time for anybody that's watching or ends up watching in the next few weeks or so, that if you are a developer and you're interested in participating, the online portion of the hackathon is still very active, and there's rewards and incentives to participate.
So I'm just trying to find them.
Yeah, it's all good. So I know Brian talked about this kind of at length the last community call that we did. That was either right at the beginning or right before ETHDenver. Yeah. Some of the categories were really interesting, and I'm curious to see what people are going to come up with.
Yeah, so the bounties are, the first one is the Masters Against the Classes, which is for a project that's judged most likely to attract the largest user adoption or show the greatest commercial viability. There are bounties for the project that's judged to forge new frontiers in the DeFi landscape. DeFi has evolved from well-trodden paths such as over-collateralized lending platforms into new use cases such as identity, NFTs, and more. Shows how you can embrace new DeFi trends. There's a category that rewards the most surprising use of beacons. If you can think of something interesting and new to do with price data, then that's the category for you. And there's also a judge's choice. It's a kind of catch-all for anything else that was too clever for us to think of. So yeah, please reach out. We're in the ETHDenver Discord, and also you can reach out in our Discord if you're looking to build something and get help. But we have developers there ready to help you as well.
Right. Have you kind of seen or thought of anything so far that has come out of this that is interesting to you?
They haven't submitted the final submissions for the digital side yet. So I don't know. It's the answer.
We'll see how it goes. Because we've had some hackathons in the past that have been interesting. People have come up with some cool stuff. And I believe you were actually at the conference at ETHDenver. Did you go?
Yeah, I was at ETHDenver. It was pretty good.
Yeah.
The first time in person. I was at it digitally last year, but the in-person side is much better.
Excellent. Yeah, it's always nice to meet people in person that you kind of like-minded people and get talking and bouncing ideas.
Well, more than that as well, I met some team members that I've been working with on and off for 4 years, really. So, I've known Eric for probably over 4 years, and I've never met him. So
it kind of is how it is on these digital spaces, which it's fantastic that we can connect like this. You know, you and I can talk and convey information to our community that is all over the world. And we're obviously not in the same place either. And that's fantastic. But it is nice to meet people, see each other in person, and get stuff done. But this is all super exciting. Beacon's kind of providing a framework on top of what we've already built for people to get stuff going, both developers and API providers, data providers. So, and you said that we have the ETHDenver stuff was partnered with Ambidata, correct?
Yeah, so we had a first party, which is an event that we had with Ambidata. We got some of our investors in as well, and got some people from various different projects there. So speaking to us about providing data, speaking to the investors, and speaking to other kind of developers in the space. So yeah, it was really good. And we had our own beer made by Woods Boss, who are a local Denver brewery, which was very nice as well. The pun being that API3 had a beer called IPA3, which is about time. I guess the place is fitting a pun to a product rather than like a product to a pun.
That, and I believe there's some pictures up on our social media somewhere of our bacon beacons stuff.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed the bacon motif. Can't take anything too seriously, right? You got to have a little bit of fun.
Yeah, some of the stickers are pretty good.
Yeah,
overall, I think to any community members watching this far into the call, I think if you get the chance to go to a conference like ETHDenver, it's really worth it because you get to speak to so many people working in the space, and everybody's really accessible, everyone's really open. And even if you're just going in as somebody that doesn't work on a project, like everyone will speak to you, everyone will answer questions, everyone will be happy to get you more involved and see if there are ways you can help out. ETHDenver, I think, as well, was free. So the cost of tickets wasn't even that relevant. The only downside was you had to endure like a couple of hours wait to get into the venue if you didn't get there to the main venue. But it's really good. Normally the tickets are much more expensive. So I would say if you're watching this, if you live nearby or if you don't mind flying there, ETHDenver next year is a good one to go to.
And I believe a lot of it, there was a quite large online portion as well. And some of that stuff, I believe, is still available to watch, like talks and conferences and stuff like that. So if you did miss out on that kind of streaming live, I think if you go to the ETHDenver website or their YouTube, you can probably find stuff and still get that information.
Yeah, and there's actually the virtual event is still open, so you can wander around the castle and look at all the exhibitors' stalls. But we checked just before this call actually, and there wasn't really anybody in it. So I'm not sure why it's open.
Gotta fix that.
But it is still open. So you can walk around and interact with the various stalls and watch videos of all the other projects that are there. Because the in-person venue is definitely closed.
Yeah. But it's nice that they still have that digital venue for people that may not have been able to attend for one reason or another. And because it's there, a lot of it was probably recorded, and you'll be able to see the recorded stuff.
Yeah, they had sound techs and camera crew at all the various lecture points. So I think more or less everything that took place is recorded. Yeah, I think the virtual hackathon, if it's the same as, sorry, not the virtual hackathon, the virtual castle, if it's the same as last year, they give you NFTs if you collect a certain number of collectibles in it and stuff. So,
that's pretty cool. Then there's extra incentive to kind of go.
Yeah, it's very metaverse. Yeah.
It's very like the grown-up kind of future version of the scavenger hunt that you did on your school field trip, and colored little boxes and stuff. Now we have NFTs for attending digital events. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, they did it last year. You had to collect little pictures of sporks and stuff, and then you got an NFT, and you could fish in the pond that's there. And there wasn't a pond at the real venue. But,
Oh, we got to get the digital pond. That sounds fun. So yeah, like overall, beacons, I think an exciting new addition to what both developers and API providers can do with API 3 and what we provide. And I really hope that it sounds like it's making things more accessible. And I think that's what the space really needs, is accessibility, so people can develop stuff and grow the space.
Yeah, and that's what we've designed this for. So I think the overall message I'd say is, if you're looking to use beacons, please reach out, Discord, Telegram, contact@api3.org. And if you're interested in using them in the hackathon, we have those tracks, we have prizes for those, and we'd love to help you if you're struggling to implement them as well. So the best thing you can do really is just get involved, and our documentation is designed specifically for this, and it's pretty good. And otherwise, yeah, they should be live hopefully Q2 this year, and we're looking forward to seeing projects use them in testnet and then in mainnet.
Yeah, and like you said, to anybody that's interested, our information is really made to be as accessible as possible for people to build off of. And the team is really responsive on Discord and Telegram and email and any other channels that you can contact us, essentially. So just drop a line if you are a developer or API provider, if you're interested in working with beacons or AirNode or anything like that. And somebody will get back to you. We've got a lot of knowledgeable people, and they're happy to help. So it looks like, I was going to check, I don't see any live comments right now. So that will pretty much be it for today's community call. The beacon seems to be pretty simple, which means I have less time on the call, but simplicity is kind of nice. So
I guess the fact that it's easy to explain is both good and bad for filling time. So yeah.
Right. For video content, it's not so great, but yeah, but for people to understand, it's nice to have a clear, kind of succinct explanation of things that, again, makes it more accessible. So thank you very much for coming on the call today, Dave.
Thanks very much, Rachel. Cheers.
Yeah, and just letting everybody know that the call will be uploaded on our social media. It'll be on Twitter. It'll also be on YouTube. And the next call will be in a few weeks. There's a possibility for you to provide feedback on topics that you would like to see if you use the Google form that we have whenever we present the calls. And we will let you know when the next call will be. So thank you guys very much for tuning in. And to anybody that's watching this call after it was streamed live, thank you for watching.